a brief silent meditation. Om. Om. Welcome to Satsang. I think from time to time, with new people coming, it makes sense to just share a little bit about what we've been doing, and it's very simple, which is we started offering online satsang mid-October, and the same format as we were doing in Virginia in person, which is nothing prepared, just sort of a group inquiry. So people come with their questions or reflections, their own inquiry, and share it with the group, and we look together. So, who will start us off this morning? Jnana, good morning.
Good morning. Good to be with you all. Last Friday, you were talking about the difference between shame and worthiness. And at the end, you said, does anyone disagree with anything? And something came to me right as we ran out of time. You had said, none of us are worthy. And I disagree with that. If, as Jesus said, I and my Father are one, and of myself I do nothing, and as Swami Satchidananda said, not an atom moves without God, then who am I to say that I'm not worthy? Who am I to place the judgment on worthiness on anything? How could I not be worthy? How could any of it not be worthy if all of it is God?
It's perfect. Thank you. You're absolutely right, of course. the worthiness is implicit, intrinsic, built in. Even the forgiveness, the sadhana, unnecessary. Even the guru and the scripture, unnecessary. And and very, very helpful. You see, there are different places from which to look at our sense of unworthiness. So, I don't remember, honestly, but probably on Friday, we were looking from the place of the one who's trying so hard, the one who has the perfect self-improvement plan, that is so steadfast and dedicated in their sadhana. Some hint of this sense of I that thinks it can achieve freedom through merit, as some kind of a quid pro quo. This one could never be worthy. And this one also coming face to face with, and experientially, with what one might call God, or now, or is. This lingering sense of I, in the face of that, will recognize instantly its unworthiness, how this grace is totally unmerited. But you see, it's not an apology, and it isn't imbued with shame. I think we were probably talking a little bit about shame on Friday, yes? Okay. So now I understand. Probably I was saying something like, be shameless, huh? Yeah, okay. Unapologetically unworthy, because the you that you think you are, as even seeker, or somebody even with the ability, the breadth of discernment and wisdom to determine worthiness or unworthiness as the judge. This one is totally unqualified. Good news. This one that's seeking so desperately, in earnest. So it's in this sense. And from this sense, making contact, this unworthiness is a celebration. It's a gift. Means mercy, forgiven when I didn't deserve it. Grace, loved when I didn't merit it. And each one will come to see in their own time this fundamental, the sort of love as the subatomic structure of what is. And even in that, any lingering sense of humility is instantly in gratitude and joy. To behold, and and to be held. This is Ananda. This is the ecstasy of being. And there, in that, there isn't much of anyone there to feel unworthy or even to claim, I've earned it. And so here we always come in our satsangs, is right up the middle of paradox. Because it's in this, you've heard me say it, I'm sure, in this, in the full expansive embrace of paradox, this is how you know. Because the mind of I'm right, I'm wrong, you're right, you're wrong, the one judging, evaluating, this one is either this or that, isn't it? Black and white, right or wrong. And this is the mind, this is the way the mind is. And out of this, the whole narrative is born, all of time and space even. You see, because to have any kind of experience, it has to come of mind, which is the instrument of contrast, beginning and end, up, down, in, out, masculine, feminine. Without beginning and end, there's no, without time, there's no framework for experience. Without here and there, there's no framework for experience as experiencer. Mind makes this possible. And it is not a problem, not even a little bit. Attachment to I'm right. This is the culprit. And the one free of that is certainly a fool, aren't they? Who could say, I have no opinion on the matter, or any matter for that matter? Is it good enough? Maybe something more, you have such a sharp mind. Is there something more we can reflect on? So comprehensive. Who has something more? Oh, I see Swami Bhaktinanda's on. Hi, Swamiji. Well, I can't call out to everybody, but nice to see everybody. Sarah, good morning.
Good morning. I understand what the young woman just said. And it's the thought that came came to mind was all is one. Those, going to the worthiness. So all is one, so all are worthy. Disease cells, non-disease cells. That was just a thought.
Yeah. You know what comes to mind, Sarah, is the prodigal son. It just moved outward into the world, took his inheritance, and spent it all. In the end, I think it's understood he wasn't exactly a good man, you know. And he spent it all. And one day it got so bad, and he had a sort of I imagine, a sense of coming to. Isn't it said that he was sleeping with pigs or something like this? In the mud? Yes? Okay. And so he thought, well, I've tried everything else, what to do now? And he started making his way home. When he arrived home, he was greeted with a feast and wide open arms. Was he worthy? Yes, of course. His father welcomed him home. It's his son. Huh? Was he worthy? Not even close. You see? He's the son to the father. It's his birthright. It's his home. The father could no more reject him on his return. Not this father. Some worldly father, in his sense of I'm right, could disown the son, couldn't it? So the son returns, totally worthy. He was born the son. They say in spiritual circles, it's your birthright. This is what's meant. You've never not been that. He was never not the son of his father. You see? There was no moment ever where he was unworthy of his title as son. And the moment that he, of his own accord, returned, he was welcomed back. Did he saunter in and said, I'm the rightful heir? Huh? Did he still have mud on him? Did he come in claiming his worthiness? Probably not. I imagine not. Huh? Step aside. I've come to take my seat. So this is the play, you know. There's never once been a moment where you're unworthy. And from a different point of view, having moved out, enamored by the light reflected off the world, engaged, propelled by our desire and our misunderstanding for the source of fulfillment, it's just a confusion, driven by attraction, desire, and aversion, fear. Each one will find in their own time No need to hurry anybody along, yourself included, but each one in their own time will find, this hasn't been working. And then you start the journey home. Here's a funny thing about the journey home. Just like this worthy, unworthy, simultaneous paradox, there's also this returning, this going and returning. You see, because in truth, in the mud, he simply calls to the Father, and the Father is there. This Father moves outside of time and space. And so the moment in time and the space, the place, that is the place. That is home in that moment, where the whole thing is forgiven. And it's sounding very biblical, of course, because we're talking about the prodigal son. But there isn't any scriptural tradition, any scripture, maybe it states it a different way, but it all points to the same thing. In fact, Swami Satchidananda, he said, you call me a Hindu, but really I'm an undo, he said. Which points to this notion of the return, of unlearning, of undoing, unbelieving, unopinionating, opinioning. And he said to his disciples, I only saw it in a video myself, but he said to his disciples, I give you all of these spiritual practices, this sadhana, this karma yoga, this raja yoga, this jnana yoga, this bhakti yoga, this asana, this hatha yoga. I give you all of these things to bring you to the point of exhaustion where you surrender and open your heart to God. And you can do that right now, in this very moment. Now, Swami Satchidananda was not a Christian. Didn't grow up studying the Bible. Also, it is true, he was not a Christian. not a Hindu, not a Buddhist. Not a Sufi. But you know, I think it's worth an exploration of worthiness as who adjudicates. Who says? Who holds the gavel and wears the robe? You see, I don't think it's God. In the parable of the prodigal son, it wasn't the father. They didn't hold a trial Did I miss that part? So who's the judge? Who litigates? And who judges? Have you wondered this before? Who determines worthiness or unworthiness? Who determines forgivable or unforgivable? It's you. This is very good news. Because if you're the judge, you're also the forgiver. It just on its face, without further inquiry, which do you prefer? I suspect it's hard on so many ears, but I will say, God has never once judged you. At no point have you ever been unworthy. Only that you have judged yourself and don't even approach. Too ashamed to go home. We don't even want to be seen by that one. Huh? For our own self-judgment, we don't even want to be seen by the one who would welcome us. Hiding, hiding, hiding. So this is 100% self-inflicted. Yeah? What if it's like that? Then it's very good news, because if it's self-inflicted, you can undo it. If it's God who judges you, well, that's a bit of a pickle. Huh? What if your very unworthiness is the proclamation that you don't even hear, that resounds in you, that says, I'm not worthy? A self-judgment that keeps you hiding in the shadows from awareness itself or God itself. Well protected by a fig leaf. And some years ago, I remember really intensely contemplating these things. And the inquiry came, what does it mean? If this is true, and you, each of you, has to see for yourself. You don't believe anything I say. But if it's true that you are the only judge, and this was my question, what does it mean, the last judgment, the biblical apocalypse, the last judgment? And there was kind of a faint little chuckle, a giggle What if it's nothing more than the last time I judge, you or me? Because this place of non-judgment, I think, from my own experience, I could say one could interpret this as the rapture. That falling out of judgment, resigning the bench, handing back the gavel, this means being okay with it as it is and me as I am. Which means stillness. The end of running away and chasing and hiding. This is total acceptance. This is isness. Or what we hear over and over again, here and now. This is what that is. It is a rapture. It's the apocalypse of me and mine, the ego, the apocalypse of I'm right, the end of suffering. Because if it's true, there's something that you can do, and there's something that you can not do. It puts you in control of your own destiny. You take the reins back from the horses that have been running wild. You begin to establish little by little some sovereignty, some freedom over karma. You establish yourself as independent from conditioning. So what if it's true? I remember it was a bit funny, when people started coming, I didn't totally understand why. And it gradually dawned on me, it was nothing more complicated that I don't judge you. I wasn't judging them. I didn't really, there was nothing anybody told me that merited any kind of condemnation. And they told me so many things, So I really think it's not much more complicated than that. We like to say acceptance or equanimity. What if we just call it what it is? Nothing more complicated than non-judgment. Detached. I do not have a horse in this race. And so this non-judgment, I'm right, falls away. Suffering will follow. To me, I think it's very good news. There's such a long list of things to achieve, to be a good person, worthy of entering heaven. A long list of shoulds and shouldn'ts. It's not wrong. I'm I'm not proposing anything antithetical to morality and ethics and being good and doing good in the world. In your family, in your community, in your country, in your world. I'm just saying that the one who is free of that, naturally, without effort, is good, does good. Without either doing or not doing. In another way, it's said as, be still. I was writing some things earlier today and was sort of musing at we look outward and we see the wrongs of the world and we try to wrestle it under control. And then eventually, out of a sheer exhaustion, we turn inward and try to wrestle ourselves under control. All manner of self-help. And there's a $1 billion library available to us for how to fix ourselves. All of these things are good, and they have their time, and they're good, and they're right. And there comes a time where you just detach. Surrender. Eventually, the world beats it out of us, the arrogance that I can fix the world. The world will win. It's the house. It's the casino. It's designed this way. You may have your little victories, but it will tap you dry. And then we turn inward, and in this effort of self-improvement, we see that the self that's guiding us through the improvement itself is more flawed than the one following. and this looping. The friend whispering in your ear, telling you how to be better, what you should and shouldn't do. And you see that it hasn't really been a friend at all. It's actually been a long con. And all of this, again, good and right in its time. Necessary even, we could say. But who will come to the end of both of that? Who will come to see, I cannot fix the world. I that I think I am is the problem and couldn't possibly fix me. What to do? And also in the writing I was musing today that the mind, so identified in this or that, thinks, well, I just give up. It's not quite like that. Is either working really hard or buried under the covers. Okay. What's next?
briefly, a little while ago, we just made like a little comment about how karma is so interesting. Some of the karmas that we have, that we play out, and then we got disconnected. So I had a moment to contemplate, and I was thinking about how the three types of karmas that we learn about in yoga. Really being like past accumulated, present playing out, future accumulated. But then I was wondering, isn't it all? It all just feels like one big kind of soup of karma. Like it's all doesn't. It feels like when I experience, like I can have experiences in my present as I'm starting to notice my karma is playing out a bit more and saying, oh, I see how this is my present life, how I see exactly where this came from. But there's also this scent of like, I think there's also some past sense too. It feels like it's not just this life, it's both. And I can also see how it can play into the future depending on which way I choose to go with it. So it's all of it in one. And then where this led me was the question of, is it somehow because my present perspective of the life, the reality that I'm experiencing now is my past. So it's the same. I think that's where I got. So maybe you could talk about that a bit.
Yes. Okay. Very good. It's a very good place to come to, this intersection, the beginning of a recognition of what's called karma, just really nothing more complicated than Newtonian cause and effect, and nothing less complicated than an infinity of interactions layered on top of each other. Infinitely complex. And never happened. And never happened. But sure feels like it. So let's talk about that. So karma is action, is the literal translation in Sanskrit. The yogis categorize karma as agami karma, the karmas that all of us are accruing in this very moment as we breathe and sit, as we digest food, or, all of these are karmas. There is prarabdha karma, which is the karma that is kind of the arc of this particular lifetime. A narrative of experience to navigate through as an identified person, an ego navigating through a world that it considers separate. This is prarabdha. I'm oversimplifying, of course, and I'm also not a teacher of yoga, so better sources than me for this. And then there's sanchita karma, which is the full storehouse of all karmas, of all lifetimes. Karmas also can be categorized as familial, institutional, organizational, religious, any kind of affiliation you've had. Certainly your ancestry is a big part of your karma. That your ancestors are very much alive and moving through you. You at the tip of the spear of your entire lineage as the experiencer on behalf of, we could say it this way. Huh? So it's very complex. But karma is action, is movement. And this is very simple, but pay close attention. If you're moving alongside something, or moving within something, this movement is not going to be very clear to you if you perceive it at all. So it's only from a place of relative stillness that you can perceive movement. Only from a place of relative detachment from the experiencer of karma that you can begin to see the patterns of karma, of prarabdha acting in your life. If you are not relatively still compared to the prarabdha of your life, you are confused. And there is no discernment, and there's very little wisdom. There's repetition and reaction, a looping. Confusion. It's what's called avidya, or ignorance, or blindness. And confusion. This isn't an indictment, this is how it is. And when you come to see it, you'll see it if you haven't already. So, Krishna Priya, you say you're having the experience of seeing some patterns emerge in your awareness. Meaning what was subconscious, you're now seeing the patterns of you, of your personality, of the types of experiences that keep looping back around for you, and your reactions and responses to them. This is relative stillness, this is relative detachment from the sufferer, the experiencer. And once you get a taste of this, you'll want more. Well, not always. You know, it's funny, when the subconscious becomes revealed to us in our new awareness, relatively still and relatively detached, but not still and not detached, what we see can be very disturbing. The emptier you become, the more will be revealed about your own self. And the first iterations of this can be very disturbing. You'll see all kinds of things in yourself that have been lurking there that you weren't aware of because they were subconscious. But having seen the reflected patterns in the world of how it is you were engaging and the types of things that you were chasing and running from, you become aware. Oh, I do that. I've done that. Quickly develop compassion, self-compassion. And this is the fast way. But now, you yourself are under the instrument of observation. The you that you thought you were now is something different, observing who it is you thought you were. From this place, from this vantage point, seeing the patterns, pattern means what? Pattern means repetition, right? Repetition means past. I know these things are so obvious when you hear them, but you must really lean into it. So it can really din in you this, that everything is past. Means not now. Some reflection in the mind that, of course, it has emotions and the nervous system, even the breath itself, tied to all of these mental reflections on past. Sometimes pleasant, we call this nostalgia. Sometimes unpleasant, we call this resentment, trauma. But what is actually here now? Even the thought of past exists in this now. And you never go anywhere. But there is that sense of being lost looping in the repeated patterns of conditioned past. So when you come to the vantage point, aware of yourself as a subject, interacting with objects on the screen of awareness, there's some distance there, and now this is the very, very beginning of what you call discernment. Before that, this word, discernment, is just a pretty spiritual word to sort of cloak attractions and aversions. So when you, as awareness, you sort of rise above, looking at the landscape, the inner landscape and the outer landscape, seeing the subject in the mind and the subject in the world, navigating objects, inwardly thought, emotion, outwardly relationships, goals and ambitions. And when you begin to see that, this is the beginning. Of at least self-awareness, discernment. From here, seeing the patterns of conditioning, which are generally automated, robotic, and reactive, instantly triggered. Now you can begin inserting little commas, little pauses, and reclaim out of reactivity and into responsiveness. Just by inserting 1, 2, 3 breaths in between trigger and response. And little by little, with great self-compassion, great self-forgiveness, great understanding of the world, these are all elements that will quicken the process for you, make it so much easier. You will become increasingly free of conditioning, increasingly free of karma itself. Remember the movie Groundhog Day, and Bill Murray steps in the same muddy puddle every day? Eventually, he clues into, he's repeating the same thing day in and day out. Yes? Maybe not everybody's familiar with the movie, but soon enough, he becomes aware of it, and he still forgets and steps in the same puddle. And then one day, he walks around it. In fact, I remember so many years ago, went to go see Eckhart Tolle, and he said, this movie Groundhog's Day says it all. He said he really likes it, so I watched it again. And so, let me just take it the next step as well, because in beginning to understand the patterns, this is a precarious time of misunderstanding and pretending to understand. You see, the habit of this personal sense of call and response in a framework of time and space that I think I understand, it's so much more complicated. You can think of your life of karma like the butterfly effect, of the sort of the foundation as I understand it, which is very limited, of something called chaos theory, where a butterfly flaps his wing in Singapore and a hurricane hits Florida. So we can't dissect cause and effect Yeah. And yet, people are always running around talking about how this one deserves their karma. Such foolishness. But this is also good news for you because you don't really get it. There are some things that you can know about karma, I think, that will help you navigate these things. One is that you don't know, and take comfort in that. If you remembered everything that you've done in past lives, it would be very difficult for the psyche to bear. It's a great gift, this forgetting. You've done so many things. But there are some things to help you navigate, to understand that there is a proximity and there is a distance between you and your karma in time and space. You know it's yours when you're deeply disturbed or very attracted. When you fall in love and you swoon, this is your karma calling. This is your opportunity for healing and forgiveness in relationship. But it's your karma resonating with their karma. It indicates work to be done. And I was talking about Eckhart Tolle. He might say, it's your pain body attracted to their pain body. It's a wonderful, beautiful opportunity, a great invitation to heal. But most of the world confuses each other as objects to be obtained. We objectify each other, we objectify ourselves. But really in relationship, this attraction, it makes the other person a portal through our own selves to our own freedom, and to be that in exchange, in turn for them, to be the portal through which they come. So difficult. And the same thing when you're greatly disturbed. Same thing, it's for you. It's come for you as an opportunity for you to be free of it. In a way, the difference between these attractions and aversions is not so great. Because that attraction, anybody who's ever been in a relationship knows that there's pain on its way. And anybody who forgives a very difficult, unpleasant situation, there's joy on its way. The whole thing really is designed for you as a mutual upliftment. You in relationship in the world, with people of the world. The opportunity is to forgive and elevate each other. Now, this is completely opposite, I think, to what we experience most of the time. You've heard the analogy, crabs in a bucket. No one wants the other to get out. Pulls them back down or tries to climb up over each other. So this is close proximity to karma, is visceral attractions and aversions. And you really know this is for you. There are concentric or outward circles of karmas as well that are a bit more distant. Also, these are for you, but they're just not as, you're not as tightly bound in it. So anything really that you perceive as the perceiver that brings any kind of attachment to it, it's an opportunity for you to heal. This includes everything you read in the newspaper or read on social media. This includes every conflict among friends around you. All of this is to be transcended, forgiven, you could say, detached. And the great opportunity of being aware of the patterns of attraction and aversion, of attachment, then you can remove your attachment from it gently, slowly. So there is a sense of proximity. Also, as things that are difficult that happen around you, to people that are close to you, but you're not directly involved, you are just graduating that. They're going through it, and you holding space for them, also arising above, because you surely have done that on both sides in the past. So there's really nothing in the world that isn't a mirror to you and to past. And the confusion is generally, you have somebody standing in a canyon and they yell, "Echo! Echo!" There's somebody there, and they go. Huh? So it's all past. The first echo came from you, and you're chasing the reflections off of the mountains. So slowly we develop awareness of our own patterns. We see ourselves as subject from the viewpoint of witness. And now discernment can begin to happen. You can begin to navigate with some ease. Not the least of which is, one, this doesn't belong to me. I belong to now, and this belongs to past. I've already survived this on some level. If it's an echo, it means I've already heard it. I've already survived it. I've already been duped by it. I've already engaged with it. I've already survived it. There's no peril in an echo, is there? It doesn't belong to me. I belong to now. This belongs to past. This is very liberating if you lean into it. Also liberating is all of this is for me. Like a classroom in a university. All Indian Swamis like to make a joke about karma as the classroom and the universe as the university. Isn't that right, Deepti? They all do, yeah. But that's all that's happening. It's all for you, designed, a conspiracy for your joy, your freedom. And it's so kind, it'll keep repeating for you until you overcome it. Which means detach. So karma is so complex. All you need to know, gently, without any self-judgment and any judgment of the world, you simply need to know, oh, I did that. I did that. I don't remember. Nothing can come to you that doesn't belong to you. It's not possible. You can't even be aware of something that isn't part of you. In fact, the master sees the whole thing as herself. would look, like this, like we're all looking at each other and being like, there I am as Ranjani, there I am as Andrew. So, pay attention, pay very close attention, continue to develop your discernment. As you become aware of your attractions and aversions, you can slowly begin to detach from them through non-indulgence. Just reclaiming yourself for your own self. Lovingly making better and better choices for yourself. Generally for us, means doing the things we prefer not to do. Doesn't it? This detachment actually means doing things we prefer not to do. Not to be a good person, not to improve myself, but this is the way of detachment, is to do the things that I know are good for me and I don't. Just like anybody takes medicine or goes to the hospital for a surgery. Nobody wants to do that. But they know it's going to help in the long run. This is not different from that. And also not doing the things that bring us continued suffering, especially when we see the patterns of it. How frustrating is it? How frustrating is it that we see the pattern? I know if I eat the 4th slice of pizza, I will not sleep and I'll feel horrible tomorrow. And I do it anyway. Yeah? So it's also okay, but once we see the pattern, we're no longer really bound in it. It's just going to be difficult to withdraw from it because of the nature of habit, of inertia, tamas. And also, there is an inbuilt forgetting. Also a bit frustrating, isn't it? A dullness, a muda, a forgetting. And we think, oh my gosh, I did it again. I didn't even see it coming. I forgot. Can you just, as part of your awareness, also see the habit of self-evaluation? This is a real culprit, this one. The habit of you judging yourself is not helping you. So when you see that pattern also, withdraw from this pattern also. A kind of a loving acceptance, a posture of loving acceptance towards your own self that also isn't indulgent. Isn't indulgent and isn't in denial. And always finding that sort of sweet midsection. Pay very close attention, softly but intensely.
Just listening now to what you were saying about this, this posture of softness or gentleness, but also intentional. And I don't remember the word you used, but this particular posture, I was what like kind of washed over me was this wave of comfort of feeling that there's like this partnership in this now, from this position. It's like me and God, me and Guru. We're looking at something together. And I know you and I have talked about it, but I'm experiencing it now. And it is very sweet.
World is mirror. Guru is mirror. Guru is mirror. That we don't like what we see is its own thing. But let me just say this, just so that you hear, the seer sees, can't not see. Hiding is absurd. Pretending is, absurd. But when you're in partnership, and you seek, then you will see. You will also see. And hear this. When you become totally naked, absolutely willing to be seen in every nook and cranny of your being, your past, in that moment, you also will see. The hiding precludes seeing. And so when you come into collaboration like this, it's very good. And it's only a temporary collaboration. You yourself won't need it for very long. You'll need it as long as you need it. But just like a crutch, you'll discard it when you can walk on your own. The hiding itself, it's so fascinating. The hiding itself precludes our own seeing. Somehow, I don't really quite understand it. There's something in the sort of unreflectedness of the mind. They're like spaces of a mirror where it doesn't reflect to the one who sees somehow. That we don't know ourselves. Even looking in the mirror, it's so curious. But this falls away. As soon as the posture of hiding dissolves, seeing begins. You see your own self. You see what you've made it. And then eventually, unmaking it that, forgiving, you will see it as it is. Clearly. But it's nice too, isn't it, when you finally feel like I've got somebody in this with me, It's not even really necessary for it to be another person, a guru in a body. It's not necessary, actually. It sure can be helpful. And in this collaboration, you'll see you have somebody really rooting for you. And if they're really, really rooting for you and really, really love you, they won't be so afraid about hurting your feelings. As long as there's always that gentleness. But I heard it once said, like a group, it was a men's group, and it said, "I'd rather step on your feelings than on your grave." But it's nice to have a partnership of looking together. I mean, in a way, that's what we're doing here in satsang, looking together.